Hey y'all, it's your girl Ray, and welcome to Talk That Ish with Ray, where the conversation is real, raw, and uncensored. As always, we are here to have fun, release, but most importantly, heal the shh out of ourselves. If you have a topic you would like to have discussed or you would like to join in the conversation, head on over to Talk That Ish with Ray on Instagram or Facebook, and I would be happy to collaborate that with you. All right, guys. So today's topic of conversation is probably gonna be a little exciting, to say the very least. But before we get into that topic, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been in my corner, who has been here for me, who has been supporting me throughout this entire process. I know 2 weeks ago I released a video letting everyone know what was going on and what had happened. I recently had an appointment on Friday, and I am 50-50 on my feelings and emotions right now. I wouldn't even say 50-50. I'd say more like 75-25. 25% of me is feeling stupid, embarrassed, and ashamed for allowing myself to go down the path that I went instead of allowing myself to be hopeful and joyful. But the other 75% is ecstatic, excited, amazed, truly blessed, because my doctor confirmed that I do not have cancer. She also confirmed that I'm actually the healthiest that I've been since this entire chaotic process has started. She threw all of my woes and worries out of the window. She definitely gave me a sense of calming and peace and gave me that confirmation I needed to go ahead and take the next steps in my life. And honestly, words can't even express the way that I feel. Like, I genuinely feel like it's time for me to step out of the box slowly. I'm definitely going to get there. But it's time for me to start living and stop worrying about my health and stop worrying about all of the things that I cannot control. Um, and I've definitely been working that path for a very long time. And it's taking me some time because I struggle with trusting the process. I feel like I have to be able to control what's happening in my life. But I'm slowly but surely working on not being in control all of the time. But that is a topic for another day. But I really am feeling light. I feel like the weight of the world has been lifted. I feel like I just walked out of hell into heaven. Um, this has been a rough couple of weeks for me, dealing with all of this and processing all of this information, not knowing what was happening, not knowing what was going on. And I'm truly blessed to have the people that were there. I am truly blessed to have a loving, caring support system for them to just listen when I needed to cry or vent or scream or yell. They were always ready and willing to take that call. For my mentor who allowed me to process through all the chaos in my mind, even though I feel like I wasted a lot of her time. Because a lot of the conversation we had nothing to do with my feelings and emotions surrounding the situation. But I know she understands the process. I know she understands that I had to get these things out to be able to deal with my feelings. Because there was a lot happening, with the diagnosis, and there was a lot going on with the entire situation. So it was just trying to pick what to prioritize, what to think about, what to worry about, what to process on. There was a lot going on. So I definitely appreciate her more than anything for allowing me to be free and comfortable with speaking, and allowing me to be myself in those moments. But Friday was truly a amazing and blessing of a day. I got great news. I did have to work until real late, but I guess we can take one loss with all the wins that I had that day. But I got to see and spend time with my grandparents. I got to spend time with friends, even though it was over the phone. Um, I just felt completely loved and appreciated and valued and free. I was able to be myself. It was just it was an amazing day. It really was. It was a day that I was not expecting. Um, but I am truly grateful for those people who have been there for me throughout this process. I really am. And I can't say thank you enough. I can't. But I will say it as many times as feel I need to say it. And I will say it until I am blue in the face if that's what I have to do. But I appreciate each and every one of you. I truly, truly do. And I thank you for all that you did and all that you are, because I honestly never would have made through this without all of you. I never would have been able to keep myself afloat. I would have sunk into a dark space. I would have been in a really unsafe space. And I will say that I was afraid of myself during that time. I didn't know how to process my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. So when I felt as if I needed to respond aggressively, I just shut down. Or if I felt that I had to ignore it, I just shut down. There was a lot. There was a lot going on and a lot that I had to work through and a lot that I had to get through. But I was able to do it. I was. And honestly, I would have never made it through that situation as calmly as I did if it weren't for the people who were there to support me. And I truly, truly, truly and deeply appreciate each and every one of you, because honestly, that is rough. And I know, and I want to apologize. I want to publicly apologize to everyone, every single person that I snapped on, that I was angry towards, that I shut down or shut out, because that I'm not going to say that what I did or how I felt was not okay. What I will say is it truly opened my eyes to teach me that I need to learn to be okay to accept help. I need to be okay to ask for help. I need to be okay to just let go of needing to resolve all of my problems alone. I don't have to be independent in situations like these, and I don't have to burrow down and just deal with it until the answers have arrived. Because that's one of my biggest issues is I try not to burden people with my problems, because we all have our own problems. We all have our situations that we're dealing with. And I have to learn that I have this support system for a reason. And if they show up, lean on them. If they don't. But sometimes people don't know what you're going through or what you're feeling or what you're thinking if you don't say something. And my problem is I always think that, okay, I told them what's going on. Why don't they ask? And that's valid. I will say I am valid in that feeling. Like, why didn't you ask? Why didn't you reach out? Why didn't you check in? Why didn't you do all of these things? But the thing of it is I also have to take accountability in that as well, because I'm such an independent, strong person. And what if they did and I just shut them out? What if they did and I just shut them down? Which that does tend to happen a lot more than it doesn't. But for those of you who did not reach out during that time and you knew what was going on, I'm not mad at you. I'm not upset with you. I understand. For those of you who did reach out and I snapped on or reacted irrationally, I deeply and truly apologize. And I appreciate you for still being there even after it all. And if you chose to take a step back, I understand completely, and thank you. Thank you for giving me space. Thank you for giving me time. And thank you for allowing me to process this in the best way possible. But with that being said, we are going to move on to our topic of the day. Today's topic is stop triggering me. This is a conversation that is had worldwide. I've seen many videos. And ironically enough, I've seen many videos today as well about this. And one of the biggest things that a lot of people say when they're having this trigger conversation is, it's not my fault you're triggered by what I did or said. No, it's not your fault necessarily that I'm triggered by what you did or said. But we've been friends for how long? We've been in a relationship for how long? We've been family for how long? I'm almost positive we've had this conversation before. I'm almost positive we talked about the things that have triggered me. And me, I am a rational, irrational person. So there are two ways that I can go. And I am a type of person, I'm an open book. Once I've developed a relationship with you and a bond with you, and I've allowed myself to get to a place where I feel comfortable opening up to you, I am vulnerable to you. And the reason for that is because I know that I have a lot of shit that I have to deal with. I have a lot of shit that I have to work through, and I have a lot of shit that I have to move on from. So when I am building in relationships with people and I am creating a bond with someone, I take that time to let them know, hey, look, I am a kind of friend that I stay home. I enjoy my own company. I don't mind having company. Give me a heads up if you want to go out and do some plans. Like, I am very open and honest. I am not the friend who is going to jump in the car and rip and run the streets with you. I'm not that friend. I'm not the friend who is you can call on a whim and say, hey, I'm leaving my house in 10 minutes to go out. I'm coming to get you. Get ready. I'm not that friend. I am not that friend who you can dump and dump and dump and dump and dump on, and then I don't react. I'm not that friend I'm not that friend. I am the friend who is understanding and kind and loyal. I am the friend that you want to go out with me. I'm not asking for a week's notice. I'm not asking for a month's notice. What I'm asking for is time for me to allow to adjust, to get myself charged, to allow myself to be. I have social anxiety. I don't like being out in public. I don't like being around people. I am okay with chilling at home. And then I am not the type of person, if I leave my house, I want to go sit in somebody else's house. I'm not that person, because the way that I am at your house is the way that I am at home. And if you don't accept that and who I am as a person, then we're going to have a problem. I'm going to want to leave. But the thing of it is I'm not going to want to upset you. And I'm not going to want to make you feel like I'm not there for you, or I don't support you, or whatever the case may be, because I just up and leave. I'm not going to give you an explanation. I'm not going to answer. I'm just going to leave. So I tried to avoid socially awkward situations. So I can't put on a role with my friends. I can't put on a role with my family, and I can't put on a role with my partner. How I feel is how I feel. And is my delivery shit? Sometimes, absolutely. Am I working on it? Abso-fucking-lutely, because that is not okay. I am going to say that now. It's not okay. But what's not okay is you triggering me into a situation. What's not okay is making me feel like shit because I didn't do something when you know that this is something that people have done to me before. Communicate with me. It is not hard to communicate with me. It is not hard for you to have a conversation with me. Like, there was a video that I watched this morning in regards to dating advice. Because, the dating pool is shit nowadays, and a lot of us are old school love where we want to be monogamous and we don't know how to date because that's all we've been our whole life. So, and I'm sorry, I don't mean that the dating pool is not shit. It's just there's some shitty people in the dating pool. But the conversation was had that she's like, it's nobody else's fault that you're triggered. So just because that person doesn't text you back right away or in 24 hours, you're not in a relationship, you're dating. move on to option number two. And a part of me agrees with that, because that person's not obligated to respond to you. That person's not obligated to talk to you or have a conversation, but it is triggering. Now, where I agree with it is because how are you going to be triggered by something and you probably ain't say nothing to this man? You probably ain't even tell him that being ignored via text message bothers you. Why? Because we don't like to show our hand. We don't like to play our vulnerable cards the moment we meet somebody. We don't want to open ourselves up to be a target in the event that this person's intentions are not real, are not true. So you're triggered by this, which causes you to react, which causes you to respond, and it ends up turning into a bad situation when it didn't even have to be in the first place. That I agree with. However, if I have had a conversation with people, and I think this is the part where people get confused, is if I've had a conversation with you, and I've had this happen to me on multiple occasions, and honestly, my mind just does not allow me to continue working with these type of people or dealing with these type of people or being friends or involved with these type of people. So my mind will shut me completely off from them. But if I've had a conversation with you about how this situation at this time triggered me to react this way, and that reaction was uncomfortable for me, and I felt completely outside of myself, and you turn around and do something remotely similar to that or the exact same thing, yeah, fuck you. Bottom line, like, the fuck? Why would you do something like that? And to me, you are intending to break me down. And that may not even be the case, but it is. That is it. In my mind, that's the case. So now I'm triggered. Now I feel some type of way. Now I'm mad. Because why are you trying to manipulate me? Like, I cannot, one of the things that I cannot do in my life is deal with a manipulator. I despise manipulators. And I don't mean the type of manipulators who try to deflect from themselves in the sense that they don't want to talk about their problems or deal or talk about what they're going through because it's just that painful. I am talking about the manipulators who will make you feel low as fuck. The ones who aren't quite there, but just right a notch before narcissist. I cannot stand manipulators. I can't. I cannot stand them. I can pick them out from a crowd. I can tell them, I can read right through them. I cannot stand manipulators and gaslighters. I cannot fucking do it. So for me, for you to manipulate me to feel as if I could trust you with my deepest, darkest secrets and just to throw them right back in my face later, or to do something to trigger me back into that response that I was in, and I'm gonna calm down because a girl is starting to get pissed. But that's what I mean. Having this conversation triggers me because why? Why? That should not be a thing. That should not be a factor. That should not be a person's way of living or thinking or breathing. Like, what? But I mean, another lesson that I'm learning in life that I have had to adapt to is not everyone is like me. And not everyone is like the people that I choose to be around. So I have to understand that there are just some people in this world who are going to trigger you because that's what they love to do. They like to see you miserable. They like to see you down. They like to see you upset. So I have learned to just completely shut myself out from them. I am not the type of person who is a sugarcoater, or I can't gentle respond to a manipulator. I can't gentle respond to someone who triggers me. Like, I can't not respond at all. Let's be honest. Like, if I am triggered by a situation, especially if I've had the conversation with you, if I am triggered by a situation, I'm going to take myself some time, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 24 hours. I'm going to take the time to process and articulate my thought process on this and to articulate my response. Because the thing of it is I don't want to give you the power to feel like you won. I don't want you to believe that what you did triggered me enough to feel like I needed to get rowdy. So I'm going to take that time and I'm going to process through those feelings and emotions, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And then my response is going to come as you least suspect it, because when you deal with my silence for that long, you're going to think, oh yeah, I got her to shut up. Oh yeah, I got her to do this. I got her to do that. No, you didn't get me to do shit. You just created a monster, a very well-spoken monster. So I am going to tell you off in the politest way possible and tell you to go fuck yourself in the most politest way possible. And then you will never hear from me again, because that is how I am learning to respond, because I am standing up for myself. And the fact that you betrayed me and violated me in the way that you did, you will never have access to me like that again. Ever. Ever. So when you trigger me and I tell you what you did triggered me and you tell me that that's not your fault, it absolutely the fuck is. Because why would you do what you did when you knew that was going to trigger me in the first place? That is exactly why you did what you did. So, fuck you and fuck your your triggers, because how dare you do that to me? How dare you feel powerful enough to do that to me? And how dare I allow you to do it or feel it? Now that that one's out of the way, let's talk about how people trigger us and they're not aware that that is a trigger. This is for, dating someone, just getting to know this person as a friend. Um, you know, you haven't seen your family in 6, 7 years, and during that 6, 7 years you were away, you experienced some really deep, heavy, experiences. I agree with the statement that it is not someone else's fault that you were triggered, because they don't know. They have no clue what's going on. They don't, and that's the thing, is it's understanding the process of when you talk about it and when you open up about it and who you can open up to. I can't say specifically for sure, because who I am as a person. Um, I have to go through certain steps and processes before I can trust someone enough to be able to be vulnerable with them. But there are some people that I come across that I can easily be vulnerable with. And, you know, one time out of 10, I get a genuine person out of the bunch and I learn my lesson from the other 9. But it really depends on who you are as a person. It really depends on how trusting you are and what your process is. So I can't tell you exactly what that looks like and how to do that and when to do that and when the right time is. It's completely up to you. But what I can say is that when you are in a situation with someone, let's say, for example, you are a type of person, it takes you to go through an argument before you know if you can trust someone, okay? And for most people, they've already, I'm not even going to say most people, I'll say for me, at this point, before the argument, I've already had some deep conversations with someone that I'm getting to know, or I'm learning, or I'm building a bond, or a friendship, a relationship, whatever the case may be. At this point, I have already given you something small that is personal to me. I have given you something to, hold on to. So some people wait until they get into their first argument to determine whether or not they can be vulnerable or open with this person, right? So what do you do with the information that's already been given to you? Um, I'm going to use this as an example. I had a really close friend that I trusted with some sensitive information on some feelings and emotions that I was having. And at this point, me and this person have been friends for quite some time. Like, this isn't just we've met 6 weeks ago and I gave you some information. This is a person that I've been friends with for quite some time. And it was something that was really hard for me, because I felt the way that I felt in this situation didn't just affect me, it affected someone or something else, right? And I was open with this person and I hadn't been open with anybody else about this, even though I had the conversation multiple times. I wasn't even open about it with my mom. But I was open about how I felt in this situation, how it made me feel. Some time had went by. This person helped me out with my situation. Some time had went by, and then Unfortunately, the person couldn't continue helping me out. So, okay, that's cool, whatever. Instead of just accepting my, okay, that's cool, I understand, or even coming to me and having this conversation prior to it leading up to a week-long process, they used my vulnerability against me. They used my words against me. And in that moment I knew, yeah, I'm good. I don't got nothing left for you. Because how dare you? How dare you try to attack me with my own words? So I did what I needed to do, and I have released myself from this person, and I choose not to interact with this person, and I choose not to give this person access to me. So I learned in that moment, like, those are my triggers. For you to throw back in my face something that I've been through or something that I said and use that against me, that is a trigger for me. But let's say the situation happened in the first 6 weeks of meeting somebody, right? You guys haven't even had your first argument yet. You haven't had a disagreement. You guys, everything has lined up the way that it is, brick by brick by brick by brick. And let's say, for example, let's see. Oh, here's one. Let's say, for example, you had a pipe burst in your apartment, right? And this person's talking about, oh, I got your back. I'm always here for you, whatever you need. And you reach out to said person, you're like, hey, I'm kind of like in a financial situation right now. I really can't afford a hotel. Is there any way you can help me out? Or can I stay with you for a couple days while they fix my pipes and get my floors cleaned? Or at least can I just, can you help me out for a couple days until I can figure out what my next steps are going to be? I kind of like am overwhelmed and all over the place. I really feel lost. You go into these deep feeling and emotions of however you would feel during this situation, right? And they're like, yes, of course, absolutely. I got your back, whatever you need. I can't let you stay with me, but here's some money to help you get a hotel. Or, oh, I don't have any money to help with the hotel, but you're welcome to come stay with me a couple days until you can figure out where you're going next. Like, let's say this happens, right? And then they help you out however they do this. Everything's great, everything's good. You get into a disagreement. And let's say that the disagreement is because I don't know, you ate their chips. You were at their house visiting, you know, and you ate their chips. And they're like, oh, well, if you wanted them, you could go buy them. But if you didn't have the money you could have asked, I would have bought them for you. Well, okay. I don't know where that came from, but okay. And then this person just keeps going into this financial pit of whatever. And you're like, where is this coming from? Like, if you want me to pay you back for the chips, I'll pay you back. It's not that big of a deal. And then it turns into it clicks and it makes sense that they think that you can't afford it. They think that you are at their house eating because you can't afford to buy your own food, because you had this one situation where you were not financially prepared for this to happen and you needed help to get to to get to your next paycheck, or to get to the next step, or to figure out what the next routine was going to be. Like, they have accepted that you are financially unstable rather than understanding this was a one-time situation. And now they're throwing that in your face, how they had to help you. Well, why? Like, I don't understand why you feel that way. I'm sorry that you feel that way. That wasn't the case. I am not using you. I have no intention to use you. I am going to be honest with you and say that this does make me feel some type of way. I genuinely could pay you back for the chips. But I'm going to also leave because I think that that would be best for us right now. And in that moment, that would be a natural response, because yes, you're upset. Yes, you want to be irrational, but this person doesn't know that in your past, you've had somebody drain you of everything that you had and then tell you you were nothing. This person doesn't know that you financially struggled for a really long time, and now you are in a comfortable space, and that one situation triggered you because you didn't want to go back there again. in that instance, your triggers are not their problem at that instance, but it is an opportunity for them to understand. And how they react to that understanding after the fact is completely up to them, not you. So let's say, a couple days go by and you reach out, you say, hey, I kind of want to talk about what happened the other day. I really feel like we should sit down. Do you want to go have lunch? You know, whatever the case may be, however you want to do this, right? And you sit down, you have the conversation with them, and they're receptive. They understand where you're coming from, and they're apologetic for their reaction because they misunderstood the situation. Because in the sense, you can, if you look at it from two different directions, either this person is a manipulator and they're an asshole, or this person had people using them. So that was their natural response to the situation. And let's say that that's the case. Let's say you find out that the reason they reacted the way they reacted is because they've been used before financially, because they've had somebody drain them for everything that they've had, and they've been working hard themselves to get to the point that they're in because they were in a financial situation. Now, both of you have identified the trigger around money, and you guys have allowed yourself to come to an agreement of how to do that moving forward, right? A person who isn't going to acknowledge that or care enough is going to use that next time. They're not going to tell you that they experienced this, that's why that's why you triggered them. They're going to tell you, oh, it's okay, no worries, I understand, things happen, blase blase blah, but I really just don't appreciate you coming to my house and eating my food and using up all of my money and da 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 da, right? There's going to be a way that this goes down, but if you have another disagreement and they do it again, they use that same situation or whatever the case may, or they use a new situation that they've realized triggered them, at that point you realize that you cannot be open and honest with this person. And at this point, they're going to continue to use your triggers against you. And at this point, they're going to continue to trigger you. So no, it's not your fault that I'm triggered, but it is also your fault that I'm triggered. You don't have to take responsibility for it, and you don't have to take accountability for it because you didn't know. But if you did know, you're a piece of shit. And I'm sorry, that is a personal feeling towards people triggering people when they know, people manipulating people, people gaslighting people, and people just ultimately using people. Like, those are frustrating. It's a frustrating situation because it doesn't, and the reason why it bothers me so much, and I'm going to clarify why it bothers me so much, because it creates a lack of trust within the person that is being used, manipulated, mistreated, and gaslighted. And then it damages potentially healthy relationships because this person is in this mindset that this person is pretending to be a good person towards them, or is pretending to be assistive, and it creates unhealthy, independent people. It creates people who just have to do it all on their own because they cannot trust anyone else. And it turns good people into assholes because then they shut down and they block themselves from being able to create bonds and create relationships and develop love. It creates an angered version of that person, and then now they have to do all this extra work to get out of this place that they didn't even need to be in the first place. It like, I am a trusting person. I really am. I don't know why. I've slowed down on it, but I have always been a trusting person. I trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you. And then at that point, once you've given me a reason not to trust you, I start to dwindle away, you know, that relationship between us. It's not an immediate, like, oh, you disrespected me, I'm done with you. That usually happens at the beginning of a relationship with someone before we've had a chance to actually create a connection with each other. Um, but long-standing relationships have always been hard for me to leave because, I've known this person, I've given this person, they've got a lot going on. Like, I come up with reasons because I'm loyal, because I'm understanding, because I would never do to them what they did to me. So, hey, this hurt me. Please don't do it again. And then every time they break that trust, or they break that barrier, or they ruin that connection we have, the further and further away that I become. But it's the triggers for me. Like, for you to know that I developed this trust for you. Like, there are some people who walk into a friendship and a bond and will spend a year, let's say a year at minimum, building a connection with you. And just for you to wait until you've built that connection to show your true colors. Like, that is absolutely mind blowing to me. That a person can pretend to be someone else for so long before they show their true colors. They have to break you down and open you up just to show you who they are. Who has that time? Who has that energy? Who really wants to put in that kind of effort? Please tell me. Because it don't make sense to me. Because ain't nobody got time for all that. Ain't nobody got the energy for all of that. Like, what? Why? Where did that come from? Like, you did all of this work for a year to be this amazing person that you wanted me to see, just to turn around and be this? You should have just kept going. You already stuck it out this long. You could have kept going. Or you could have just walked out of my life. You didn't even have to do all of that. And that is why I say that my triggers may not be your fault, but you triggering me is. I don't know. It's just the way I see it works a little bit different than a lot of the things that I've seen and heard, but I feel like you really have to evaluate the depth of the relationship, the depth of the connection, the depth of the bond before you can say that your triggers are not my fault. You triggering me is, because each person's different, each relationship is different, and each situation is different. But there are many situations that at some point you have to accept that that's manipulation, huh? They are truly manipulating you. In some situations, you have to understand, oh, I'm just manipulating them. Let me walk away. Which you're not going to. For manipulators and gaslighters, you're not going to walk away, because that's how you get your power. That's how you feel good. That's how you feel fueled. That's how you feel, whatever the case may be. That's how you feel the way that you feel. So, more power to you. If that's what you want to keep doing it. But you're going to come across the right one they're going to do one of two things. It's either going to be a situation where they call you on it and they keep calling you on it, which is something that I've been doing. But you're going to come across someone who's calling you on it and calling you on it and calling you on it until it's no longer a thing, until it no longer works. Or you're going to come across that one person who's going to counteract your manipulation, and they're going to manipulate you 10 times harder than you've manipulated other people. Because always remember that what goes around, it comes back 10 times fold. So the way you treat somebody is going to come back on you 10 times worse. So in my opinion, I don't get too hurt about it. I don't allow myself to overreact. I do address it, and that's it. I don't conversate about it. I don't argue about it. I don't react to it. I address it. This is what you did. This is how it made me feel. Don't do it again. Or this is what you said. This is what you did. This is how I felt. I'm out. Because as long as I make them aware of what they did to me, and that I'm not going to, that I'm okay with being the villain in their story, and I'm not going to play victim, what power do they have? And I stand on that. I don't care if it hurts your feelings. I don't care if you feel bad. I don't care if you cry about it later. You should have never did what you did. Intentionally. Now, if I have a conversation and you genuinely feel bad about it, and you work to make right what you did wrong, why am I going to hold that over you? Why am I going to make you feel like shit about it? Why am I going to make you feel it less than? I'm not. Thank you. I appreciate you putting in the effort to show me that you were sorry. I appreciate you taking that step or that extra mile, or doing whatever it is that you did. Thank you. And I can truly value you and see you as a friend in my life, or see you as a person in my life. But if you were that person that I tell you and you're just like, well, that's not my fault that you're upset. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. Excuse me. Have a great day. What else is there to say? What else is there to do? Other than to move on. Other than to let it go. So at this point in my life, you are free to do as you please. You are free to say what you need. But just know I'm going to stand up for myself. Just know I am going to react and respond accordingly. You can't trigger me to go crazy anymore. You might trigger me, but you can't trigger me. And here's the best part about being triggered. We're gonna end off our lovely little session with this conversation, because I feel like not only do we need to talk about how people are shit for it, but I also think we need to talk about how to, counteract that. So if you trigger me in something, because there are some things that we don't even know that trigger us. There are some things that we've dealt with in life or experience that we've had to suppress, right? So what do? We take that time and acknowledge what happened. We process the situation. We process the environment around us. We process everything. We take a moment and remove ourselves from the situation to think about what's going on around us. Where are we at? What's happening? Who's involved? How did this start? We process through that. And we have to be careful during that process, because our minds can manipulate us as well. Our minds can trigger us to believe something that didn't happen or believe something that isn't true, right? So it's always safe to have a conversation, or it's always safe to not put in more than what was already given. So you sit there, you process it, and you're like, man, this feels familiar. This feels like something that I've been through before. This feels like something that has, oh my goodness, it reminds me of that situation that happened 10 years ago, right? And it's like, okay, well, in that situation, I definitely didn't handle that well. This is how I handled it. So, or this is how I believed I had handled it. So I'm going to handle this situation a little different. I'm going to put this in, I'm not going to allow this to become another thing that continues to trigger me, right? It's focusing on that. It's addressing the trigger, because if you know that this triggers you, like if you know somebody throwing something in your face triggers you, it's a little harder to not trust people than it is to identify it, honestly. But if you know that this situation that you were in triggered you, how can you make sure that this doesn't happen again, and how do you heal from that past trigger, right? How do you heal from that past situation? Because triggers are normally due to a situation that's already been experienced. This isn't something that, you just wake up one day and you're triggered by peanut butter on bread, right? You're not, it's not just something that just randomly happens. You're triggered by it for a reason. So what is that reason? I am triggered by bologna because I had torturous brothers. I am triggered by mustard because I had torturous brothers. So I'm honest, like I don't want mustard on my sandwich. I don't want bologna on near my meats. Like I'm honest about that. I've not been able to work through those, but they're honest. Um But if you have a situation that you're in and somebody is triggering you, it's identifying it and working through it. Because obviously, if you're being triggered again by something that has already happened or something similar to what has already happened, you have to work through that issue. You got to work through that problem, because it's going to continue to be a cycle of triggering. It's going to continue to be, and there are so many different ways of breaking trust. There are so many ways that you can lose trust for people. There are so many ways. And I know I keep talking about trust, but trust is the biggest one, because a lot of people have an issue with that. But even communication, like if you are triggered by conversation and the way that things are said in a conversation, you cannot control the way that a conversation goes. You cannot control what a person says to you. You cannot control how a person feels. You can't control that. So that is a you problem that you have to work through. That is something you got to work on, because if not, it's going to cause you to not have conversation with people. It's going to cause you to be the quiet one in the room. It's going to cause you to be the one who just sits back and allows life to happen around you. And that's one of the things that I'm working on, is communication. Like I used to suck at communication. severely. Like, I did not know how to have a conversation, and I never took anything serious. I still don't, but I never used to be able to have a conversation without triggering somebody because of the way that I talked. And I learned to be able to process, and a lot of that came from because I wasn't processing what people were saying to me before I was responding. I was listening to respond and not listening to understand. So I learned to listen to understand. I learned to be able to take what they were saying to me and actually understand what they were needing from me. So, like, for example, this one's a little harder for me, but I am still actively working on it and working through it, and I'm working with people to do it. But one of the biggest things that I struggle with in my life is talking about my feelings and emotions. And talking about them isn't the problem, it's getting to the point. It's getting where I need to go. So I will sit down and have a conversation and go through loads on loads on loads on loads of anxiety before I say, hey, I kind of want to talk to you about what happened that made me feel some type of way, because I don't like confrontation, because I don't like upsetting people, I don't like hurting people, and I don't like making people feel any kind of way. And I'm learning that I can't feel some type of way because I'm trying to protect them from feeling some type of way. I have to be comfortable and safe enough to say how I feel. And I have to identify, is this really an issue or is this just a me issue? So I have to take that time to process that information. And some people don't like it because some people feel like, why would you wait 3 days to tell me how you felt? I did that because I didn't want to overthink the situation. I didn't want to over articulate the situation. So I've learned that what I do, instead of just taking the 3 days to figure out what happened and acting like nothing happened, hey, I just need a couple days. You said something that kind of triggered me a little bit, but I don't I don't know if it's really something that's worth having a conversation about. If they want to talk about it, they'll ask me to talk about it. If they don't want to talk about it, that gives me time to process if it was a situation or not. If after I've processed the situation, it's not an issue, I'm not even going to bring it up ever again unless they do. If I realize that it is an issue, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation? Because I feel like this is something we need to talk about. This really bothered me. There's a number of ways that whole situation can play out, but those are, just some examples. And it's processing through, is this something that's really a them problem or a me problem? It's identifying those things. It's acknowledging that you have triggers that are just your problem, that are just your issue. Do you have situations where this person, there can be situations, and right now I can't think of an example of one, but there can be situations where just because you're triggered by something that they said or did doesn't mean that they did it intentionally, or doesn't mean that they don't acknowledge that you've had this trigger, even though you've had the conversation before. And even then, it's not like communication, depending on the situation with communication, because there are some triggers where people will go weeks on weeks on weeks without speaking to you. Or we're not even going to say people, because people are allowed to do that. We're going to say your significant other. There can be times where they go weeks on weeks and there be nothing wrong, or they claim there to be nothing wrong, but they went 3 weeks without talking to you. Why? That doesn't make sense to me. And in your mind, you're going to go to those irrational places as to why this person went 3 weeks without talking to you. Friends, we all do it. We disappear. Life happens. We all have our personal lives. We might have a significant other, or we just have a demanding career, whatever the case may be. That happens. It's okay that you kind of have some separation with your friends. You don't have to be with them 24/7, but with your partner, if you are typically with your partner every single day of your life, or you guys haven't had a discussion, it's just communication is key. Okay. That is the bottom line. If I have to chase you around town and track you down just to get a response from you, there's a problem. That's not okay. So there's different things that can trigger a person, and you have to identify if the trigger is a you problem or them problem. And how are you going to address the issue? How are you going to fix it if it's a you issue? How are you going to address it if it's a them issue? Those are the things that you have to do. So for me, I am triggered by communication and trust and my vulnerabilities being used against me. So I am working through understanding, is this a malicious Is this malicious or is this just unknown? It's understanding the environment, understanding the process, understanding the person, understanding the situation. You just have to take those times out to actually really focus on it and see what's the next step going to be. Taking time to breathe. It sucks. I will say that I am currently in a situation where I'm trying to deal with people being manipulative in a fast-paced environment. Where I don't have the time to walk away and really process what's happening, because my solution is to ignore it and to process it. I can't ignore it in this situation. I can't walk away from it in this situation because there has to always be that line of communication going. So I'm learning how to process through that. It's a very, very difficult task. And it's very annoying and it's very triggering. So, and a lot of people that are involved in the situation don't understand that. So it's kind of, trying to do this in a way where it doesn't fall back on me. It doesn't turn into it being a me problem versus a them problem. But I'm learning. I'm truly processing through the entire situation, because trust and believe me, normal Ray would just, all right, put up your dukes. Like, let's go round for round real quick. Like, that is normal me. Normal me is ready to go to war over protecting her peace and protecting her sanity and protecting herself. But professional and responsible and peaceful Ray is willing to learn, willing to understand what's happening, willing to process through the situation, is willing to take the extra time that it needs without a reaction. Because the thing of it is nobody can disrespect you without your permission. Nobody can trigger you without your permission. Nobody can hurt you without your permission. Like, there is nothing that a person can do to you that you don't allow. And I know that's definitely going to be a topic of conversation for another day, but nobody can do to you what you don't allow. And it's truly up to you what you choose to accept and what you choose to release from. And right now I allow people who are manipulators to trigger me into a reaction. So to prevent that from being an ongoing issue, I don't react. I process. I have not yet reached the point of understanding when it comes to manipulators, because how do you understand a manipulator? But I have gotten to the point where I am now allowing myself to process the situation before I react. Sometimes I don't have the processing time to be able to to get to that point of creating a safe space between me and the situation. But I have gotten to a point where even though I don't have that processing time, I still don't react. If I cannot process the situation, I reach out to my support system. If I'm at work and I'm dealing with a situation like this, I reach out to my management team. I learn to find ways to adjust to the situation and to adjust and adapt to the experience that I'm having. So I'm still a work in progress on dealing with my triggers when it comes to manipulation. I only have a few triggers. I only have a few people that trigger me when it comes to communication, just because the lack thereof. But I'm much more vocal about it and how it makes me feel. And their response tells me everything I need to know. Their follow up after that tells me everything I need to know. And I'm trying to be mindful of how I do it, I guess. Because I definitely don't want to trigger anyone. I definitely don't want to upset anyone. And I definitely don't want to create a bigger situation out of a small situation. The goal is to keep the situation small and eliminate it. The goal is not to make a bigger issue out of a grain of salt. So I'm definitely working through the processes. I'm definitely working through what's going on and what I'm doing and how I deal with everything. And I'm working through it. It's a work in progress. But the biggest thing of it is stop triggering me, because even though I'm a work in progress, even though I'm working through all of these things to become a better version of myself and to allow myself and not allow myself to give people power who don't deserve it, I am also still Ray, and I am also still capable of whooping your ass if I need to, and I'm okay with getting my ass whooped to defend myself. That's the bottom line. But I won't back down from a fight, and if you want to go to war, let's go to war. But I'm going to try the peaceful route first. I'm going to try to sign a peace treaty with you. But if you continue doing some bullshit, you're going to get the reaction you're looking for. And it's not going to be because you have the power to do that. It's going to be because I'm going to put you in your place, and that's going to be that. So, to each their own, how they deal with situations. I hope that this episode was definitely insightful to you. I hope it helped you identify, what things you want to change or what things you want to work on. And if there's nothing, kudos to you. Like, great job. You accept yourself for who you are. But that's just this is just the way that this is just something that I'm currently dealing with right now, is identifying my triggers and whether they're mine or their problems, and how to address them moving forward, and how to fix them, and how to work on them, or whatever the case that needs to be done. But I truly hope that this was helpful. I truly hope that you gain knowledge from this. And if you feel that you need further conversation on any of the topics that we've had, if you feel that you need further work or assistance while doing this work, I am always open to hearing, to talking to everyone. I'm always open to listening. My inboxes are always open. We can schedule a call to have a conversation, whatever you need. I'm here for you. Don't forget that I have studied. I have my bachelor's degree in social work, and I'm currently working on my master's degree. And my goal is to help you help you. And however I can do that, I am willing and happy to do that. We can always schedule something. So I do wish the best to everyone. I do hope that everyone has enjoyed this episode, and I will be getting back on track, guys. So we will not be missing Sundays and having hour-long videos. Unless you guys really enjoy them, I'll keep doing them. But for the most part, we're going to get back on track, and we're going to get back to where we need to be and do what we need to do. And I just want you all to know that I truly and deeply appreciate all of your support and all of your love that you give. I really, really do. And with that being said, love you guys. Bye.